Hey, Jen, will you bring that Diet Mountain Dew in the icebox there, please? What's up, everybody? All right, getting ready to start the show. Already got it fired up on the network. We're going to go, and it's the Unknown Files tonight. I've been looking forward to this one. We're going to have a good show for you tonight. Mr. Mel Skahan, I hope I'm saying that right, is going to be on there, and this is going to be an awesome show. So if you like the big guy, this is going to be a show you're not going to miss. So let me go ahead and get this started, and we'll get going, huh? Let's go. All right, welcome to this week's edition of the Unknown Files Show. Mike and Hank, good evening. Good to see you all out there and seeing what's going on and on the good old Ecamm studio remote. We got a good show for you. It's going to be file number 20 tonight. Wow, we've done this is our 20th show. Can you believe that? 20 shows already. Mr. Mel Skahan is going to be joining us, who is a Yakima Nation elder. Who grew up around Bigfoot, and he was featured in the Flash of Beauty, the Bigfoot documentary. It came out a year and a half, 2 years ago. He's a really good seminar speaker, and this is going to be a great... Hey, Carl Wolf, what's going on? This is going to be a really, really, really nice show. So let me go ahead and see if I can get Mel on the line, and we will get going, huh? Let's see if I can get him on. Talked to him a little while ago. He's a really nice guy. What's up, Jace?
Hello.
Mel, is that you?
Yes, it is. Hello.
Hello, buddy. Outdoors Dan here from the Unknown Files Show. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Good to have you tonight. We got you live right now. Everybody's saying hi, and we got you going on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. Mel, I got to tell you, first off, you and I got to talk just briefly here. Did you get dinner, Mel? That's the first thing I want. Did you get some dinner in you?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I was able to do that.
Well, that's important, man. I don't want you being hungry. That's for sure. I've been doing some research on some of your stuff that you have out. Flash. I think I first came across your name with Flash of Beauty a couple years ago with Tobe and the gang, and I thought you just really had a great story in there. And then I've heard you on a couple of different podcasts and stuff, and you're the kind of guy I would like to hang around with for about 2 weeks. Because you seem to have some interesting things happen to you.
Oh yeah, that and my coworkers have been asking to go out as well. So maybe we can all do something together.
I'm hoping, Mel, one of these days. Hey, Mark Parker, you know Mark Parker, don't you, Mel?
The name doesn't ring a bell right now, but in person, I meet so many people.
Hey, that's okay, Mel. Mark was actually in the documentary with you. He was the bow hunter. Mark was on the show. Mark, you know who?
Okay.
Mark. Yeah. Mel, I'm the same way. I've been doing radio programs for 25 years now, and when I see somebody's face, I know who they are. But names are getting so bad with me, and I'm a little older than you are too. Because are you 55, 56 now?
I will be 56 next month. Yes.
Aren't you proud of me that I knew that?
Well, with you saying something like that, I got something to look forward
to. Yeah, I'll be 60 and I'll be in 60 in February. So, but you're in way better shape than I am, though. So, yeah, the last time I creak and crack, I do a hunting TV show as well. I've been doing I bow hunt everything. I had my own show for 20 years called Outdoors Traditions, and I know when I get out there packing camera gear and stuff, Mel, it's not like it was 25 years ago. That's for sure.
Well, no, it isn't. Yeah, I was a wildland firefighter in my younger days for about 12 years.
Yeah, well, that was way more important than what I did. I'm telling you. Hey, Kim, I'm like I said, I've been kind of doing some research on your background and everything. Can you you are an elder with the Yakama Nation out there? Can you tell everybody about the Yakama Nation and it's in the Pacific Northwest? Is that in Washington?
Yes, the Yakima Reservation is located in central Washington, and it's right around 1.2 million acres,
Wow.
and it encompasses two very valuable areas associated to the tribe. Uh, the eastern slopes of Mount Adams and the southeastern portions of the Goat Rocks.
Okay. Now, and Mel, you're going to have to forgive me because I've never had a chance to get out that in that area and look around. Or so my topography and geography knowledge is pretty small
Okay.
in your neck of the woods. So forgive me for that. But
Oh no.
you're talking about really dense Douglas fir tracks, and I've been elk hunting several times in Montana. I think I've been elk hunting 10 times, Mel, over the last 30 years. But it's mostly been in Montana and Colorado. So I mean, you're talking about really large timber tracts in your neighborhoods.
Yeah, the reservation is split up in two basic areas where we have an agriculture lowlands where a lot of the population is located, and then we have what is called the closed area, which is about 750,000 timbered acres. So, and
Wow.
then it ranges from Oregon oak to our old growth, which is Douglas fir and then mountain hemlock, and so you know, we have a couple of reserve areas for our animals where where they can go and be in peace with themselves for year round, you
Sure.
know,
Sure.
until they migrate around.
Well, I just let's just start back in the beginning. And like I said, I'm familiar with some of the stories that you've shared with other people already. But you started this all started for you at a pretty young age, right?
Yes, yes. With a lot of the nation's folks, tribal folks, we're told stories at a young age, whether it be from our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and we take it as it is when you're 8 years old and you're out in the woods with them, sitting at a campfire, and they're telling you basically boogeyman stories,
Yeah.
and that's what I took it as at that age, being that that young, not knowing the world yet and what was in it. Uh, you know, I grew into my teens and everything, and then the stories kind of faded away because I lost those two generations as I was growing, and but I remember the words very well as things started happening to me.
So now, did you and one of your relatives, your brother, or was it your brother or your nephew? Did your dad take you and they would take you out with a rifle or whatever, just to teach you woodsmanship skills and leave you for a couple days? Do I remember
I
that right?
Yes, yes. My grandfather, my great grandfather, Anton Tony, and what's funny is because I didn't learn this until later on, until I met Bob Giblin. But Bob Giblin used to work for my great great grandfather
Oh
Anton
wow.
in the Yakima area, and that's how we kind of came together about 25 years ago.
Wow.
And so he told me that story. But yeah, he met my great great grandfather, and it was him that got us into hunting and the safety of it and everything. And it was either from pheasant to deer to elk, and then my father George, he was the one that would always take us out after that. So
Okay.
I grew up in the woods.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. I you know and I appreciate the fact that they're handing down that tradition or heritage of the outdoors. That's kind of a spiritual thing with you being a Native American, right?
Yeah. We're taught the ways of only taking what is needed,
Hmm.
and then we have we have seasons just like everybody else does, and so we follow those rules of Mother Nature and the laws of the land and the laws of our people to ensure that our populations, our wildlife populations, maintain.
Absolutely. Now, you said Bob Gimlin. For folks listening tonight, if you're not for sure who that is, Bob Gimlin is the gentleman. Him and Roger Patterson are the ones that actually got Bigfoot on 8 millimeter film. That's probably one of the most famous pieces of film of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I believe they call her Patty. Um,
Yes.
that so did when your grandfather when he was working with Bob Gimlin, did you know about that when you met him for the first time?
My he never spoke of Bob in that sense,
Okay.
and this was kind of in my early days. I must have been about maybe 4 or 5 when Bob was working for my great grandfather.
Okay. All right. I'm just asking Mel because I mean that would have just blew my mind if I would have met him and Mr. Patterson. After that happened and stuff, I would have they would have got sick of me really quick because I would have just kept asking him question after question. it's just,
Yeah. And talking to Bob over the years, he's there's still a lot of people that don't know who he is.
yeah.
Growing up, that we've been out to dinner, we've been out many places, and it's like going out with you name it, the biggest rock star in the world, and over in the Yakima area, and you go out there, and everybody knows him,
Yeah.
just because he's a nice, generous man, and has a great family and a wonderful wife, and so everybody knows the Gimlins when we go out.
Oh, I can't even imagine. He seems like a really nice, humble man. I've never spoke with him, but just by seeing him on interviews and listening to podcast stuff that he's been guests on, he seems like a nice guy.
Yes, he is.
So when you first went out when you were younger, um, if I remember right, Mel, you guys were out? Did you come across like some beds or what was your first experience with something that you couldn't explain what it was?
Let's see. I mean, I've come across them in many aspects while I was employed with the um,
With the Forestry
Gifford
Service?
Pin with the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, the Forest Service, and then with the Yakima Nation in my final 26 years.
Okay.
The first time I remember coming across them, I came really close, I should say. There's a story that I was robbed of my very first encounter. We were out on a wildfire in Central Oregon, and I was with the Forest Service, and we were protecting this area at night. We were on night duty, and we had this deep canyon that we had to go in and out of for 4 or 5 nights.
Mm.
And then on the last night, uh, moving about, checking on my crew members, I never felt anything. I never sensed anything, but there was something there because when we got pulled out of that area, we were moved to another spot. That very next night, and this is quite the coincidence, a fire crew from the Yakima Reservation took over that spot, and their first night there, one of them had gone into that ravine following the fire line and saw a Sasquatch with in his headlamp just outside the fire on the fire line, and that started the chaos, and he started running back to the drop point to the vehicles, yelling Sasquatch as he's running back, and like dominoes, every one of the crew members ran with him until they got to the buses, and then they were taken down. And then the very next day, uh, the fire management people there went out to the spot with the crew leader, and they filmed some very large tracks where it was spotted, and it had gone into the fire and meandered around through the fire, and then walked up out of the fire line, across the fire line, and into that canyon again.
Really?
So
So
I,
the,
yeah, so I,
so they had to document all that stuff then, huh?
yes, yes, I'm not sure to what extent of the visual on the fire management team, but the crew leader had a video camera with him, and he would show that video occasionally on large gatherings for the fire crew back home. And then I knew all the members on that team. I had gone to school with them, and they would tell me their side of the story of the account, and everything was consistent of that evening.
And Mel, that fire crew was was with the tribe, the Yakima Nation. Those were actually
Yes,
from, so that was on tribal ground.
it was not on tribal ground. It was on Forest Service land in
Okay.
Central Oregon,
So
and they were detailed to the same fire that we were.
okay, now and forgive me, I'm just curious, but when I mean, if you, it amazes me on how many different nations out there, Native American nations. Almost every one of them that I've done research on or looked up has a name for Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Yes,
It's in their legend or lore. So like
yes.
when this happens, when you all encounter something like this, I mean, is it discussed? Is it kept quiet? Or, what's the atmosphere like when this stuff happens?
Um, it just depends on the tribe itself. On the Yakima, uh, it's within certain groups, your friends, your relatives,
Okay.
uh, and there's certain hours that you can talk about things like this. You can't openly talk about it. I used to do this when I first got into this and shared my encounters and stories, and when I did it to the elders at that time, uh, they were coming up. They were coming up to me and telling me that I should not be speaking openly about this, and because
Are they doing that to protect the animals?
they,
Or the I mean, what do you, Mel? Are they people? Are they creatures? I mean, how do you define Bigfoot?
I after everything that I've encountered with them over my years, I've had ordinary sightings of foot tracks. I've seen them, I've smelt them, I've heard them. I've had items thrown at me. I've been followed at work while in the forest, and I've also been collecting at that whole time. I've been going out to the woods and hollering like you see on TV and trying to attract him to me. And I got taught a lesson on my very last encounter, which spiritually changed me to who I am now and respect them to the utmost um, hill, mountain, whatever you want to put them on,
Hmm.
and for who they are and how they live. I mean, we used to live as they did now, 400, 300, 400 years ago, moving about in a new land, trying to learn it, trying to survive in it,
Right.
where we've thrived in it at that time as people, as native, and as Bigfoot, and they're still thriving out there as they are, and so I call them the purest human that exists right now.
Well, I kind of understand what you're saying because with everything going on in our society today, Mel, I would imagine they are probably the most. How do I want to say this, Mel? They probably,
They're in touch
yeah,
with their environment, their
yeah.
surroundings.
Well, that, and they probably don't. They probably treat people. They probably treat their fellow Bigfoots better than most people treat their fellow neighbors. I hate to.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
probably
You
have
can.
more respect for their fellow neighbors. Is I guess what a good way of saying it.
Yeah, we have so much distraction and so much interruption in our life that it doesn't take much to. Oh, I got to pay this bill. We have different rules now. We live by that. Our blood pressure, our whole bodies have don't compensate for the stresses that we put ourselves under
Yeah.
for the technology that we currently have. But you go into their world, I mean, we go into their world just to get away from this.
Right.
And so that's how I see them as just calm, and they've learned us over the years.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Hey, Rob, good to see you out there in Pennsylvania, buddy. Mike, how you doing? Good to see you there. Tom, thank you for watching down there in Virginia. Appreciate you. Mel, I told Tobe this. I started listening to Tobe's other radio show, that Strange Brow show, when I was out filming the TV show that I'm on, Respect the Game. Because you're out there for 10, 12 hours at a time, and if the animals aren't moving, you need something to keep your mind occupied. And I thought Tobe always did a great job on his stuff. And I told him that. I said, Tobe, I've been doing this for a living for 25 years. You should keep doing it. You're good at it. But
yes, I agree. Yes,
I've always been I've always I always was a diehard skeptic. I mean, I've been hunting for 35, 40 years. I grew up in Missouri, and we back in the 70s, Mel, when I was young, we had Momo the monster.
Momo, yes.
Yeah, we had our own Bigfoot and sightings and stuff going on, and I absolutely loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. Then there was Boggy Creek and all that other stuff. But as I gotten older, my grandfather and my dad taught me how to squirrel and rabbit hunt, and then as I got older, I got into big game hunting with a bow. But I've never seen anything or heard anything that I couldn't explain. And I was always really skeptical about. Even though I love the legend and the lore of it, I just didn't believe in it. I said because but I got to tell you, when I started, I told everybody, because the reason I started doing the show is I usually get around 10 to 12 emails a year about people seeing something or hearing something, or something's chasing their horses and they want me to come out and look and see what it is. And I told my wife, I said, this happens every year. I just think that would be a neat show to do, something totally different than talking about whitetail or turkey hunting or fishing. Just do something on unknown phenomenon. So that's how I get in it. And as I started doing more research on the show, Mel, after talking to some of the people that with these footprints and the dermal ridges and some of the other things, I've got a way more open mind than I did 5 years ago. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good. And a lot of the skeptics, are there the same umbrella that you are? Is that I can listen to the stories, and I like you. I understand the sounds. I know the foot tracks of all the animals out there, and it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And but when I do conferences or do talks in front of large groups, I tell them, I says, I know there's skeptics. I know there's people on the fence, and I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not forcing anything on you. You just sit there and listen, and I'll put on a great show for you of every intense encounter, and minor ones too, I'll mix in, and then you can take it for whatever it is. But these are actual events that have happened to me, and the last one I share is the most ultimate strangeness that even I couldn't believe when it was going on in front of me.
Yeah. Well, let's save that before we get into next half of the hour. Actually, Mel, I'll tell you what. Do you mind holding through a break? I'm going to go ahead and take a real quick break, and then we'll pick it back up. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right, folks. We're visiting with Mel Skahan. He is with the Yakima Nation out in the Pacific Northwest, and Mel. I'm enjoying this, so thank you. We'll be right back right here on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Whether it's camping, hunting, or fishing, you want your camping setup to be easy and your
What's up, everybody?
As possible. Campride has been helping folks enjoy the outdoors as problem-free as possible since 1999. Campride employees are outdoor enthusiasts that use and design each product to make sure your adventures are ones you'll want to remember. They carry great tents like the original tent cot that started it all. This fully enclosed.
He does look like Bigfoot, Mike. He does.
Standard sleeping.
Hey, if anybody has any questions you want me to ask Mel, let me know.
Several models of tent cot units, including single and double units. They also specialize in sleeping bags, camping tables, cooking prep units, chairs, and other fine quality outdoor products. With over 17 years of field testing, great outdoor gear products, Camprite is the right choice to make adventures not only comfortable, but also carefree. Check out all these Camprite products at your local Sportsman's Warehouse or anytime on the web at camprite.com. That's camprite with a K.com.
You're heading out on your morning hunt well before sunrise, so you can stay undetected from that giant you've been chasing all season. Wouldn't it be nice to know exactly where your stand or blind location is without letting anyone know where you're at walking in? Have you ever heard of Onyx? Onyx is one of the most important pieces of hunting gear that you can use and always have with you. The Onyx Hunt app allows you not only to get from your truck to your hunting spots, it also allows you to mark and save your parking spots, scrapes, food plots, rub lines, or some possible next stand locations. The Onyx Hunt app is also a great way to see your property and know where you stand. Onyx is a mobile app that you can take anywhere. It's recognized by game wardens all around the country as a valuable hunting tool. So, if you want to always know where you are and have the ability to save information that will help you be a better hunter, go download the Onyx Hunt app at your app store today.
Are you into hunting, fishing, camping, or tailgating? If you are, we'd like to introduce you to Arctic Ice. Arctic Ice is a brand new way to keep your game, beverages, and camping supplies cold and fresh. Wherever your adventure takes you, Arctic Ice Packs are a rugged ice substitute that maintains low temperature longer than a bag of ice and does not have the slushy mess that can contaminate what's in your cooler. If you like to hunt or fish, look at the Alaskan Series or Arctic Ice Packs that will keep your game or fish at 34 degrees for 3 to 4 days. If you're wanting to really freeze things up, try the Tundra Packs that can keep your wild game and fish at dry ice temperatures for the travel back home. For tailgating or camping, try the Chillin' Brew Packs. They will keep your beverages of choice at frosty cold temperatures 4 times longer than what a bag of ice can. If you want your game, fish, or camping goods to stay fresh and cold as possible without the mess of regular ice, go check out Arctic Ice Packs today.
All right, welcome back to the Unknown Files show. This is Outdoors Dan. My guest is Mr. Mel Skahan, and we're talking about the big guy, the big fella, Mr. Squatch, as we always like to say on the show. And Mel has been kind enough to spend the hour with us here. Thanks to everybody listening on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. Good to see Pete. How you doing, Pete? Good to see you, buddy. Mel, did I still got you, Mel?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So, okay, Mel, I got to ask you, when you all through your time in the Forest Service, when you were out, I know that you saw some stuff. You saw several tracks. You must be first of all, you must be an excellent tracker. I would think. I mean, I'm a fair tracker, but I'm partially colorblind, so sometimes I lose stuff. But you must be an excellent tracker.
I wouldn't put excellent in there. I'm a tracker, I've tracked many of the animals that I've hunted, and so you learn things as you go on, you get more experience with it.
Yeah. Now, you were talking to the gang on Flash of Beauty, the podcast, a few weeks ago, and I listened to that, and I thought everybody's doing a great job on that as well. I really enjoy listening to that. You were talking about that you, in your experience, that there, if in an area there could be several of these people of Sasquatches or Bigfoots, however you want to say it, and they actually migrate with the weather, with the food sources. And that was the first time in all the things I've ever read or listened to that I heard that. I thought that was fascinating, Mel.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I not only have I been doing this on my own, but I've also collected over 1,100 stories from around within the reservation boundaries, and so that's listening to people's accounts, and then a few of them would take me up to the locations, and there's certain traits that some of them have that kind of stick out when I talk about them, and when I speak of locations and certain things that are associated with 1, 2, 3 or 4, then those people were. I see them. When you got somebody really interested and they start tilting their head, and then you can see, the thought process going. And they come to me up after my talk, and they're saying, "I've seen that one. I know." And then I would have them pointed out on a map, and then with the information that I've collected, with time, date, color, everything, then that's how I come to figure the movements of a few of them that were seen multiple times by me or somebody else.
I'm glad you said color, because I don't. That's another thing that I don't hear a lot of folks talking about. But over the years, I've been on many a bear hunt, bow hunting bears, and you got black bears, and then you have color phase bears that could be like a little blonde or reddish, reddish brown or red, and I don't hear people talking about color phase. Bigfoot or Sasquatch. You hear a couple. I talked to a gentleman the other day. He said that there was actually some down in it was either Mississippi or Tennessee, Mel, that they were white. They had white.
Yes.
Or white or gray? Have you heard of that?
We have a gray one, and we had a white one here for a while, but I have not received any additional information on that one over about 10 years now.
Yeah, to me that's pretty fascinating. Because you don't hear a lot of people talking about that, and just being an outdoors person, if I'm out and about, and if the wind's in my favor, and I'm sitting there and I start hearing brush pop, and I'm just going off my hunting bear or elk experiences, Mel. I've never been out in big timber stuff like what you are, where you grew up. But bears are really actually kind of quiet. They can walk on their pads and hardly make any noise. But elk are constantly popping brush and making noise and everything else. But it's fascinating that something that would be 8 or 9 feet tall, weighing several hundred pounds, wouldn't make more noise where people could hear them farther away. Yeah, I guess if bears can do it, I have not been around grizzly bears personally, just black bears. But are grizzlies quiet like a black bear? Can they walk pretty stealthy?
Yes, they could. Well, they have noise deafening material on them to where we, just recently got into that with the soft outdoor stuff that does, because synthetic makes a lot of racket.
Right.
And if you're not trained properly to maneuver and walk in the woods, you could be stealthy too and sneak up on animals. And but a lot of people, are just walking around looking, and so you have to go, you have to go to those levels in order to acquire those skills to hone your craft as a hunter.
Yeah, you've never seen me walk around in the woods, Mel. I'm not quiet. They make fun of me on the show all the time. Can you make any more noise, Dan? It's like, I didn't see that branch.
I have a partner of mine that taught me how. I learned from him how to be a lot quieter when I walk.
Yeah, are you going heel to toe? Are you talking the stuff walking that way, or?
Yeah, it's a hard workout when you do something like that, or even toe.
Yeah. I had some buddies of mine to do that, and they're way more stealthy than I am. That's for sure. So when you were out doing your, because didn't you used to go like do survey stuff for the forester, for the people doing the logging? Didn't you used to go and clear the way or make markers for them to which way they could log and what they couldn't do?
Yes, I was a timber cruiser for the Forest Service.
Thank you.
And I also was a timber cruiser for the Yakima Nation.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know the correct term for that. Timber cruiser.
Yes.
Thank you, Mel. I learned that's another thing I learned from you tonight. Thank you. So when you were out there doing your duties, did you start hearing whoops? I know. It's Brett, right? Brett and Jill that does the.
Brett and Jill, yes.
Yeah. When Brett and Jill were talking about coming up on out of the reservation when they came and saw you. They stopped off at that one point and they just pulled off, and it was in the middle of the night. The stars were out, and then they heard a whoop, or no, they heard a tree knock, and then they said that they smelled something. I mean, have you just been out there and all of a sudden start hearing whoops and knocks and stuff out of the blue?
Yeah, when they told me when I met up with them, they told me where they were, and I was like, oh, that place is famous for its encounters, and I said that's where I collected my hair from that area, and so I knew. I knew exactly where they were, and yeah, I do hear the whoops. I do hear the wood knocks. Sometimes I work alone, but a lot of the times they'll send somebody with me to train, and I won't exactly let them know what's going on until they start hearing it themselves, and then I leave it up to them whether they want to believe it or not.
Well, I mean, is it real noticeable, or I mean, if you take somebody out there, like I was talking to this gentleman in the Olympic Peninsula the other day. He's not a Bigfoot enthusiast. He's a diehard Roosevelt elk hunter. And I was talking to him about his Target products and stuff, and I said, okay, now don't think I'm crazy. I got to ask you this though. Have you ever been out, heard something, or seen something you just could not explain? And he started laughing at me. And he goes, Dan, I've never seen anything, but as far as a creature, but he said I've heard things and seen things like lights and stuff that I couldn't understand what they were. And I said that's pretty cool. And he goes, hey, come on out. I got cabins if you want to come out here and stay for a week. I told him, I said, you know what? When I get done doing the TV stuff here in 2 or 3 years, I'll be out there because Mel, I'm just telling you right now. I've been on a lot of hunts over the last 30 years. I would love to come out there for a couple weeks and just get out there and just listen.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's the first step right there is not noticing or noticing something that you have not heard before or can't associate with other animals,
Right.
and then you start you know talking to other folks, and then you build this network of the same situations, and then what you were doing, and then they hear the same sounds, and then that intrigues you to when you go out again to listen for those sounds again. Then you kind of like, okay, now I've heard it. Let's see what happens next.
Right. Well, now when you were talking with Brett and Jill and Tobe the other when you did that interview that I listened to, you said that a lot of times when you hear a knock or a whoop, that they're not by themselves, or they might just be coming into their area announcing that they're there. Have you heard multiple things around you that you knew there was more than one thing making noise?
Yeah, a lot of the times when they're alone and they're following or they're around, they won't make any noise. They won't would not. They won't whoop. But you'll get this weird humming, or not humming, but this weird growl to let you know that they're there, and it's pretty intense, and it's also associated, and it's a directional growl that comes at you. And when I feel it, when they do it at me, it's like I hear it and then I feel it, and and when I get that vibration that goes through me, I know who it is.
Yeah. So, have you ever turkey hunted?
Yes.
So, have you ever had a turkey gobble at you? Like a lot of times, if I'm in a ground blind and I'm bow hunting turkeys, and I got my decoys out in front of me, and I'll do like a few hen yelps or clucks and purrs, and then I'll hear a gobbler that's real close within 20, 30 yards, and he gobbles. I mean, you can actually feel that sound through the blind. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I know what you're
Is
talking
that
about.
what you're talking about with the growl?
Yes.
Same.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Same thing, but on a 7 foot scale.
Yeah, well, no, I can imagine it's a lot bigger. I mean, turkeys are only a cut. You know, I get it. But I mean, I understand what you're saying because you can feel that gobble sometimes if they're real close.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so I get that. But I mean, what do you do when that happens? I mean, do you stop? Do you, I mean, do you look? Do you just look around, or do you sit down, or I mean, what? I mean,
Uh, the first years I would stop and then I would try to find out where it's at.
yeah,
And but now, as I progressed through my years, when I would hear that sound or hear them around, I would just keep working, and being neighborly, whether it's down here, being us, going to see friends, family. You always introduce yourself,
Right.
and you know, you, and then that's what I do out there. I don't say anything aloud. I just project out that my name's Mel. I'm a timber cruiser. I'm only out here doing a job, and once I'm done here, I'm going to pack up my items, and then I'm going to leave. And so they know my intention. And but if I'm not friendly, or if I'm an unfriendly person, if I'm out there, playing loud music, some things that we don't like here in our real world that say, hey, turn that down, go somewhere else. When you project yourself in that manner, then you're going to get the howls, the growls, the wood knocks. You're going to get the visitations, and so you always want to be kind to your neighbor when you're out there.
So have you ever been chased out of the woods? Have they ever have they ever became aggressive that you were uncomfortable enough you had to get out of there?
My very first 2-3 years, I was not comfortable because I was alone and still trying to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
But over the years, I could visually say that I've never been chased out, had really large items, aggression towards me.
Have they thrown
But
rocks and stuff at you?
not me. I
No.
mean, I got a great story where I was out with a coworker, and he took a couple of rocks, and we were together, and he rolled them down the hillside, and we were watching it bounce off the trees, and there was something down below us, and it ducked behind the tree as I was watching, and then he took another one, and then he rolled it off the hill, and it never popped out again. So I went to take a look, and I was finding some large tracks in the ground.
Really?
And then I followed them for a while, and then they hooked off across the hillside, and then they went back up. And then as I was going back up, my coworker, I could see him, and a few minutes later, I see him running, and then this rock rolling down the hill. He gets to me, and he goes, "Did you hear it?" And I said, "No." I go, "What's going on?" I said, "I saw you kick that rock loose." He goes, "I didn't kick that rock loose. That rock was thrown at me."
So they circled up and around and threw something down at him.
At him, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what he asked. Why didn't they throw a rock at you? I said, I didn't throw those rocks down the hill. He saw you do it.
Yeah. Mike says that his response would be, "My name is Mike. I'm jumping out of my stand and I'm heading home now."
Well, there you go. That's a good start right there.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, you hear different things, Mel. I mean, you hear that they got real aggressive and they chase people out back to their cars, and I would assume it's like anything else. They're all going to have probably different personalities, right?
Right. Yeah. And just like elk and deer. They have their periods where they're being parents,
Right.
and they have to stay close to their young. So the Sasquatches are the same way. When they have their young and they gather, they have to have ones watching out for those for the others, and that's the patterns that you see in certain times of the year. It's not. What is happening when you see multiple tracks in one spot, and but when you see a lone one, then he's just out checking you out and making sure that you're not out there to bother them.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I want to talk about one thing that I heard that you talk about. It just totally fascinated me about the story where you were out in the winter. You and another coworker were out and you found multiple tracks, like 2 or 3 different animals.
We found a set of three.
A set of 3.
We found
3 Bigfoot, three Sasquatch, like a family.
It was a family unit exactly. After putting all this together, we found a 22-inch track in the snow, and then we found an 18-inch track and a small 8-inch track. And it took a while to figure out what was going on there by following him individually. noticing that the larger one, I call the male or the father, was on the canyon ledge, watching out, looking ahead to see if anything was ahead of him. And then the other two were down in the canyon, walking up this creek bed, and then the smaller 8-inch track was like a little child. It would break away from the 18-inch track and just go up and meander along the opposite hillside, and then it would come back down to the mother, the 18-inch track, and then they would take a few more steps, and then he would break away. He was allowed to break away again, he or she, and then come back down. And so while they were having their family time, mother and son or daughter, the father figure was clearly moving tree to tree, looking ahead and making sure
It was safe.
they were out of harm's way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mel, in the winter when everything's white, I mean, deer stick out so easy, and I've never really elk hunted with snow on the ground. It's always been early September or middle September. So, even at 10,000 feet, there wasn't snow yet. But and I could see where things could hide or stay elusive in that kind of cover. But in the winter, how do they stay hidden? I mean, how do people not see them more often?
Well, in the location that they were at, there was only one plowed road, and
Oh, I remember you saying this. I apologize. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and so they knew that road was the only road, and they were watching traffic going in and out of there. So when the last vehicle or no traffic going out the other direction, then they really moved about.
Mm-hmm.
And and this for as a hunter, is that every animal loves hiding cover.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's where they stay hidden from all predators, and that's you gotta think that they're the same way. They're in the hiding cover mode.
Yeah,
and they're not gonna present themselves until they're cornered or until they make one little tick, and then you are focused on it, and then the encounter changes. Whether it's going to be good or bad depends on your interaction with them.
well, I could understand. I could understand that. So, are they denning? Do they have? I mean, have you ever found a den or a cave situation, or I mean, like an overhang deadfall where they've made like a lean-to, or not a lean-to, but you know what I'm talking about, something out of deadfalls. Right. Where they could get in there like an overhang and get out of the weather and elements. Have you ever found stuff like that?
I've talked to many people that have seen those types of structures. I've also talked to a few people that have got into small openings or large openings and then found bedding material inside and just a real obnoxious smell emanating from there that wasn't a bear.
So you could tell the difference between bear scat and stuff than something like a Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, I've been around a bear den before, and it's musty, man. I mean you can tell, but I've never, not that I know of, I've never smelt a Bigfoot. But
all right, I've got a question for you.
No,
all the hunters out there.
Yep.
Okay?
Go ahead.
We were coming out of this area. We had just done a 7-mile hike doing our work, and we were on our way out, and we came back out the same way we went in.
Right.
And when I reached the top of where our vehicle was parked, I came across this smell of urine that, I thought was on the ground. It was not. This was 6 feet up into the trees. And it was a small reprod section where the trees were about 8 to 9 feet tall. What urinates up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, not up. I mean, if it was running down, I could say like a cat or a bear could possibly, but not up.
Yeah. And it was a heavy smell, and the first time I ever come across it. It was from 6 feet down.
So it only went up so high, and there wasn't anything up above it.
There was nothing above it because it would not support a weight of it would support a weight of a bird, but not a cat or you know
That's crazy.
anything
That's crazy, Mel.
large.
That's crazy. I don't know what that would be, Mel. I'm telling here's my thing. I would never want to. I would never want to harm. If these things are out there, and please don't take it like I'm discounting what you're telling us tonight, because I'm not.
Oh no no no.
Yeah, but I mean, if these things are actually out there, I mean, and if I ever am given the gift of seeing one or hearing one, and I know what it is. I mean, Mel, I even went out and bought a FLIR unit. I mean, I would love to see one. And I'm not trying to make money on this. I'm just doing the show because I love the topics. I love talking about it. But I mean, if I would never want to harm anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I just that would be something to see or hear, or to be that close to it, to know that. Well, I know that's not a bear. Like Mark Parker, I believe Mark Parker when he told me he was elk hunting and that Sasquatch stood up. He thought it was a stump, and then he had one walking back and forth behind him for several hours, and he finally. And I believe him because he's not trying to make any money off of it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, when you get into this, that's I was like, I gotta prove this.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got to believe me on what's happening out here. And then once you go through this and start putting the pieces together of every encounter, and then you change your mindset to, well, I don't need to prove this to anybody. I'm trying to prove it to myself right now. And when I get to that point, yeah, I may share my information with everybody, but right now I'm at that point where I was at that point where prove it to everybody, prove it to yourself, until you're satisfied, and then once you reach that goal, then you've satisfied everything in yourself. That every answer that I was seeking when I first started is in my head now.
Yeah, Mike says believing is half the battle.
Yes.
That's what Mike just said. Well, Mel, you're a young guy yet. You're only going to be 56. I mean, you got a long and fruitful life, hopefully, God willing, and so you got time. But what do you think it's going to take with everything out there? I mean, and I know there's different factions or different beliefs as far as flesh and blood and spiritual, or and I don't know enough to have an educated opinion on that, other than the fact I believe after talking with you and all these other people about what's going on. I mean, some of this you can't fake. I mean, there are a lot of this stuff you can't fake. It's just like the dermal ridges on the footprints back from the 50s and the 60s. There wasn't any technology out there to put those on those. You couldn't make a pair of wooden footprints and have dermal ridges and stuff on them. It wasn't possible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, unless you do great detail about it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, how would you fake that? I mean, they didn't even have the 3D printers or anything like that. I mean, and who would have the money back then to go do that? I mean, who would know you would make any money off of it back in the 50s or 60s?
Right. I mean, Bob says he's not making money off it at all now. So I mean,
I didn't mean to. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. It's just you see this stuff on TV and it's like, I'm not going to watch that because I don't. But I would rather listen or talk to you or Tobe or. I'm going to have Scott Taylor on in a couple weeks. Scott.
I love Scott.
Yeah, I was talking. He's a hunter, and I mean, just talking to my fellow hunters, that I know that they know what woodsmanship is, and I mean, they know what when they're out there hunting, they know how to identify an animal, but they can't identify this. I mean, and what they're seeing, I mean, to me, that just, I mean, it's opened my. I'm way more open-minded about it than I was. Like I said, I would love to see or hear something, Mel.
Yeah. I completely understand it. I was in your shoes at one time too.
Yeah. Well, I just, I mean, how many people in like that you visit with, or your family and stuff? I mean, to me, this has got to be a big spiritual thing for someone that's a Native American.
yes, it is, and when I first got into it, they told me you'll never see one, you'll never film one, you'll never record one, and I took that to the truth after my pictures were not developing correctly, and I
Yeah.
started listening more, and then the other part of that is if you do see one, it's bad luck, and then
Oh, is it really?
when you have in the native culture, well, on the Yakima,
Okay.
it was considered that way. But after taking in more stories of sightings and events afterwards, there were messages that they were sending to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were protecting those people, and that's what they were doing, and they know more about us than you think.
Well,
And
they're watching. They're watching, right?
yeah, and so when they approach people, or when they approach these people on enrolled members, I would sit and listen to the story, and then I would talk to them, and they just delivered a message to protect you, and it's not negative.
No, I'm after talking with you and several people. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's a respect. It's a reverent. It's reverence. It's a that's the way I'm taking it, Mel. You know. But do you go out when you're out there and you're just listening or looking around? Do you gift? I mean, do you leave gifts, or do you try to establish a rapport with and see if you can get closer to document things like that?
Well, I don't document anything anymore. My wife and we just go out and enjoy nature, and
Okay.
like I explained earlier, anytime you go out, introduce yourself, and that you introduce yourself, and then let them know who you are, and if you have other family members with you or friends, just introduce your friends as well. And once you show that respect, then your encounter with them, they'll sit back and watch for a long time, maybe a day or two, depending on how long you're out there, and then they'll finally come in, and they'll more times they will come in while you're asleep.
Wow.
And we used to put items out on a table for them to interact with, and we would hear them playing with the crinkly toys, the bells, the magnets, everything else. And you gotta remember that may be ordinary to us, but to them it's things that they have not seen before.
Sure. Well, I mean, they're like 2,000 years back in the past compared to what we are. They're still living
Yeah,
primitively. I totally
yeah,
get that. I do. I think that's neat. Well, what do you? I mean, I know you do a lot of seminars and conferences. One of these days, I'm going to make it out to one. Hopefully, I get to meet you. Is that what you do? You enjoy doing those things?
I don't. I do, and when I get asked, because I don't go searching for them and asking to be part of them, but
Yeah.
if my name gets passed along and everything, I will do one. I'm doing one this weekend in Medline Falls, Washington, above Spokane, Washington, this weekend. And then, if you want to come out and enjoy one, the Yakima City of Yakima Chamber of Commerce is putting on the Bigfoot Conference, see Part 2, in October, and I'm helping arrange all the speakers and organizations, and they're talking me into doing a Bigfoot outing
Oh,
for folks.
that'd be neat. Well, I got at least a couple more years, Mel, for doing the Respect the Game TV. So I'll be in a tree stand, bow hunting. But when I get done doing that, I'm going to be heading out your way, buddy. I'm telling you.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah. Hey, if someone like to, if they want to follow you, or just to read or hear about what you're up to and stuff, what's the best way for somebody to do that?
I don't have a website. I have a Facebook page, but I don't really put much on it other than a few appearances that I do.
Okay.
Just Google my name, Mel Skahan, and then put Bigfoot with it, and then every podcast, everything that I've done is right there.
Well, everybody that I've talked to has said that you're just nothing but a genuine, great guy, and I want to thank you again for spending some time with us tonight. And will you do me a favor? If something happens, if you're out there enjoying nature with you and your wife, and you stumble across something, would you shoot me a text or a message? I would love to hear about it, Mel.
Okay, yeah, I can do that for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to stay in touch with you. I really would. So, please give my best to your family, and God bless you, and you stay safe out there.
Oh, yeah, I do. And thank you for inviting me. And I'm glad that to be invited on your program. I had a good time, and I hope your listeners,
Oh, they
listen
yeah.
back to words and everything.
No, Russell and Mike and everybody said to tell you thank you. They really enjoyed it. Yeah, that's no. You're welcome. And I'll look forward to hearing more from you. If now, hey, you got the new movie coming out. Is that this year or next year? The part two. The not.
The part.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Flash of Beauty part.
Part two.
Part two, the paranormal.
Yeah.
They showed a preview of it a month ago, and it's not quite finished. They're doing some editing on it yet, but hopefully they said it was going to be out by this fall.
And you're in that, right?
Yes, I am in that.
Yeah, so we'll be able to listen to or see you some more if we watch that. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
All right,
yes,
Mel.
Yes, you will.
All right, Mel. You be good, and hopefully I'll hear from you. And if I don't, you have a great rest of your summer. Okay.
Well, I'll be sending you some stuff.
All right, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
There he goes, Mr. Mel Skahan. What a nice guy. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this show. It was an honor talking with Mel and the gang. I hope you all enjoyed it. You're welcome, gang. Thank you very much. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and I'll be posting hopefully some walleye pictures and stuff when I go fishing here in a couple days. You guys be good. Otherwise, we'll talk to you soon. And that's going to wrap it up for tonight's Unknown Files show, brought to you in part by our good friend of Revelton Distillery down in Osceola, Iowa, the official spirits of the Outdoor Call Radio Network and the Unknown File show. We'll see ya. Good night, everybody.